What's a good word, everyone? It's your boy DKB here. I just want to say thanks for all the support. The channel's been steadily growing, and the number you see below, you can drop a text, shoot a voicemail, any ideas, topics, collabs, etc. you guys want to see. I'll include them in future videos and live streams, and I'll catch you again. Be easy. What's a good word, Jets fans? It's your boy DKB here, and we're getting into another recap of Minicamp, OTAs, and a training camp preview for our 4th round pick, who was a trade up for us in safety, Malachi Moore from the 2025 draft class. And this was a guy I was really excited about. In fact, I believe the first 7-round mock draft that I went through from last offseason, I had Malachi Moore in the same range. I feel like the 4th or the 5th round. And what I was most excited about after I got a chance to dig into him was the turnover ability and the veteran-like just team captain allure, right? This is one of those guys you feel like on the back end, if the course of a game is getting a little bit shaky, right? This is a guy that gets you back on track. This is a guy that gets his players to really settle in and just get back to foundational principles of operating that defense and what their roles are, and he'll be just fine, right? There's a reason why he got all rookie accolades his first year at Alabama. There's a reason why he was able to recapture his starting job after losing it to injury and seeing the explosion from Brian Branch. And there's a reason, speaking of Brian Branch, why it's easy connective tissue to see Malachi Moore could have a really successful season in year 1, just looking at the Brian Branch blueprint, right? Obviously a less athletic safety, but he has enough of what you need in order to ask him to fulfill any role, right? And so ideally, even though I'm considering a ball hawk, if we're talking about year 1 impact, I think the best option for him to see the field is probably going to be beating out Tony Adams, right? And in fact, that's a lot of what the news is coming out and saying, is that once again, you have another rookie from the draft class, right? You take a look at it. Obviously, Armand Mimbu is going to be the starting right tackle, barring injury. Mason Taylor, tight end 1, starter. Azareye'h Thomas, there's talks that he can beat out Brandon Stevens, potential starter, right? If not, definitely key backup. Malachi Moore either is going to be a key backup or he's going to earn a role taking away Tony Adams' job. And so the draft class gets better and better the more you dig into what's happened so far in the offseason. But in Malachi Moore's case, it's not unreasonable to think that he could, right? Tony Adams is kind of the antithesis to Malachi Moore in that he's not quite as disciplined, not only with the eye tracking, if you will, but tackling, right? Responsibilities, coverage. We've seen Tony Adams make some plays, and don't forget, Tony Adams is still one of my favorite UDFAs out there. But when it comes to technique over potential, I think Malachi Moore has him beat. Much like kind of like a Dean Clark, for example, where he just has so many snaps. Obviously, Alabama's been known for having elite secondaries year in, year out. Being groomed by Nick Saban really helps. And I think the comps in the NFL that he got to Devin McCourty really is spot on, not just from a physical archetype, but similar experience, similar amount of time spent in college, similar abilities on special teams, just all around Swiss Army knife that was able to do that at a relatively high level, right? You know, Devin McCourty's definitely killed us in a ton of games just purely off mental recognition and being able to essentially make the plays that were going to be available to him. It's not even like he really outsmarted us. He was just elite with the film watching and being able to take that to game day. So we did hear Steve Wilks, right along with Azareye'h Thomas, mention Malachi Moore as a DNA type player for the New York Jets, and what you can expect or what you want to see in terms of traits and or skill sets that'll be applied to the defense. And I couldn't agree more. Now, the fact that he can go out and play so many positions is going to be a help, right? Free safety, strong safety, nickel. He could be a split safety. He can come in and dime sub packages. He can play kind of a sub linebacker role, right? You can bring him up into the box. You can roll him. You can have him as a QB spy. There's a ton of different things that you can really do with him. But I think the part that's most exciting is when you look specifically at 2024, when he finally got to break out of the star role for Alabama. and really play kind of a more pure safety type position, you've seen some of the best work from him. Yeah, and obviously you'd expect year upon year for them to stack good things, but I think it really lets you know just how good and just how high his potential in the NFL particularly could have been, and we got to see it at both spots. So he really does feel like an interchangeable piece here. Now, aside from Aaron Glenn kind of hyping him up, aside from comments from Steve Wilkes, aside from whatever he's been able to do on special teams potentially with Chris Banjo's unit, and aside from seeing players hype him up, right? When he got a pick six, or maybe it was just an interception off of Brady Cook, for example, you've seen the defense go crazy, and that's something we're a little bit more acclimated to. But in the same token, I would recall, for example, Bryce Hall being a guy that rarely got his hands on the ball. And you heard reports of course, when it would happen during OTAs when Bryce Hall was still on the team. But certain players, it just seems like the defense doesn't respond to as excitable as you would other players, right? So it seems like Malachi Moore is already a guy that's pretty lovable within this defense. Bleacher Report's Alex Ballantyne also mentioned him as a summer breakout candidate for the New York Jets, of course, on the heels of the fact that he could work himself into a starting role right in year one. And even if it doesn't happen in week one, it is one where potentially you could see him gradually start getting more of the snap share as the season goes on, right? So he's intriguing to me. But even Zach Rosenblatt was a guy that put a little blurb out there about what he thought of Malachi Moore, where he mentioned Moore has a legitimate chance to push Tony Adams for a starting job next to Andre Cisco. And it didn't really go into more or less about what that looks like or why he may be performing better in some aspects than Tony Adams. But if you just want to talk about the culture of what Aaron Glenn is looking to do, he needs people that are going to be consistent. Consistency is you're going to hear across all three phases of the ball, and accountable, right? And you're accountable by what Aaron Glenn mentioned earlier in the offseason. We're going to teach you what we're looking for and how to do it, and we expect you to be able to go out there and replicate and then do that at a high level, right? So with him having this kind of it's almost like he has a year of NFL experience coming into the NFL, right? 3,000 snaps is not something you're going to see too often. So the only thing that really could hold him back or create some cause for hesitancy is that, again, he doesn't bring off the athletic traits. He doesn't have elite bursts. He's not overly fast. And it's not to say he's a snail either, but there are going to be some situations where if he isn't playing certain matchups perfectly, there's going to be the potential for us to get beat, right? And so early on, again, Tony Adams, I think, is the easy place to see him at, but I do see his long-term future probably being like a Andre Cisco replacement. It would be nice for Andre Cisco to work out this year, for example, and do really well for us, but also, I wouldn't mind seeing Malachi Moore patrolling the back end again in 2026 as essentially your starter, barring any top picks spent at the safety position. So let me know what you guys think, though. What would be your projections in year one, right? In terms of just the role, would you be satisfied with him being a starter, or would you be more comfortable with him just kind of taking a layback approach and fitting in where he can get in, right? Taking breather snaps at free safety, filling in as strong safety when needed, coming in those, combo packages where you're rolling out three safeties, etc., etc. And I'll catch you guys again. Peace.